Hello, welcome to Key Philosophies. Today, today, I will be just going over what I think is the real purpose of this program, my purpose for this program, and that is to discover what the great work is and to embark on that work. That's why everything I've created thus far are essentially recreations of initiations and my attempt to, over these videos, lead you through that, because I think that's very much been lost. I think that when we are exposed to ideals through life and movies, media, and entertainment, that we are being initiated, that we have been initiated, but we have not been guided properly in ways that groups in the past, like the Eleusinians and so forth, like I've gone over the Falun Gong teachings, the initiations of into Hermetic rites, all of these things and groups had processes you would go through, trainings. It's much like a martial arts movie where the master will turn away the student for years, decades, sometimes, until they're ready, making them go through seemingly ridiculous things, really trying to temper their character. I don't think that really people have a lot of that. Not saying that you're going to get that here. That is just something that we're going to talk about. And, for people who are probably embarking on that, you're probably already well on your way. You probably have your own opinions, and that's really what this show is a show of paradigms, understanding different paradigms. But in relation to that is because I want people to understand this great work. And I think that there are multiple ways to understand the great work. And also, I think that there might be a couple of different things that the great work could be referring to, depending on what your interpretation of the great work is. Now, it could be seen Masonically that the great work is really, to sum it up, this raising of Atlantis. This great work is the creation of our society, right? That could be seen as, good or bad, and we're not talking about that right now. But what we're talking about more specifically, and that also is an option, but more specifically, that this great work is a purification of yourself, an ascent process, going into your, into through higher degrees, mental degrees. This has been seen as, nirvana, transcendental states. These are the processes of healing. This is in relation to Kundalini, all these practices. And it would seem to me that, there's either some truth to them, or maybe a little bit of insanity along, maybe a little insanity mixed in with all of it, because it seems pretty obvious. And, even through my own experience and through observing and reading all this, and maybe some of you can tell me that, when people come into contact with this, divine thing, it's just as easy to be led into a form of insanity, you know, and it's been called Kundalini madness, Um, there are similar ecstatic states that could be seen as you know being absolutely madness. Yeah. So there really is a fine line, and I think that's something that we can understand as if we see through through each other's works, through their processes and the way that they act, how they're behaving, that they're doing things in a proper way, that they're well, proper meaning that they're still able to maintain a balance in this world. They could still, you know, delve into, can you or anybody delve into the psychedelic world, the metaphysical world, the dream world, come back and forth and still maintain a regular life? Because no, it's not that easy. Not so easy that you can just jump into mysticism and think that you can understand it, or that you should begin practicing things that other groups have set out to do because you don't know their end goals. Do as thou wilt. But is that all that you're doing? Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Then you will reap what you sow. Are we mixing things together then when I do that? Because one is just an upside down way of looking at things. Some say that's the right way. When you get into the equinox, and I mean equinox by, like, the Aleister Crowley writings, the Gnostic writings, the anti-patristic writings, where there's a lot of information to be had. There's a lot that could be said. A lot that should be said. This idea of the Yahweh, YHWH, Kahin, incarnate, but amnesiac state. Worships a self-image, which he projects, whereby creating a distance between himself and himself. Since this form of worship reflects a lack of self-knowledge, it is rejected. This is what's in the idea in some of the ideas of Gnosticism, the anti-patristic ideas of Gnosticism, that the God of the Bible is an insane and blind God, insane and blind to its own mother. Those are the exact terms as I read in the Gospel of Sophia, which you might find in the Nag Hammadi text.org, or naghammadi.org, I think that is. Very good resource. But we could, it depends on how theological you are. Are you taking in all of the text of the Bible and that's it? Those are the words of God, or do you see them as a collection of inspired writings, or writings driven by insanity? Maybe as some people put it, as some of the in the other schools, the so-called dark schools, they would say that these theological writings that are largely in control of the church world today are driven from the lower astral. The lower astral. So if these things are from the lower astral, then it could be said that, well, all things are of God, right? So, well, these things are meant for testing and strengthening of the other occupying inhabitants of this world. Okay. And there's the idea of the caretaker in the Greek myths who takes you across the waterways for 2 pieces of silver. The holy guardian angel, the Christ. Yeah. So there's the idea. Do we need to access our holy guardian angel, our Christ concept, activate these things, these Kundalini, Falun Gong, the initiatory rites of Hermes, because they all essentially equate to the same thing, I have to say. I think that they're keys. I think they're all parts of keys that were left by initiates of the mystery schools of all things Atlantis. And they have disseminated down for a very, very long time. So, either we have this situation where there is something hidden, there is something to be gained, there is something to be known, and a process to be perfected, which I think I can, I tend to relate with, or this is all just a folly and part of a mysticism that was brought again from the past to bring about ignorance in people, because they did do that. That has been done by specific groups. But you have to ask yourself, have certain things been hijacked? And that's where things become difficult, because it becomes pretty interesting, some of the knowledges that that do seem to seep through these mystic cults of ignorance. I don't think we're coming from a place of ignorance. I think that even a lot of the work of Manly P. Hall and Blavatsky shows that, and many others. But there is a contention. There's a contention that there was some kind of thug mob group that took over mysticism, that took over the cults and secret societies. And so how would anybody know the difference? And I think that's been part of the issue when I look at a lot of these things. Is because we're given a weak version of things, a fake version of things. And we're given no real avenues of finding any tangible information, any workable information. So we're kept and left in this vibratory left brain state. Yeah. And maybe that's all there is. Maybe empirically these are all ignorant, apathetic fools pushing a mind conspiracy on everyone. Or is there something to the Rosicrucian thinking of building a better world? That being for a purpose that I think is made clear in these mystery writings. but that purpose seems to have been somehow perverted, somehow co-opted, and some writers, some other mystics, such as Steiner, have alluded to as much. They've said just that. Let's say around 200 to 300 years ago, these things were taken over. And that might be why we see things like the Theosophical Society so much involved in the philosophies that are so the root of things like what happened in Germany in the mid 1900s. So, I don't know what exactly to tell you, where to send you, but this is why I'm here, to just share these ideas. Because I think, getting on this high vibration concept is a healing thing. It's an active thing, it's an active principle. And if we act in that, it does seem to reflect the ability to actually, and by actually, I mean by action, by physical action, make our worlds a better place, locally and otherwise. We don't want to be caught into this low vibration. And I think at least entertaining some of these ideas is worth it. So, I hope you will continue or will begin work with me, and maybe we will build something, or maybe we will just work on ourselves, or maybe this will be just something I leave just like this. Either way, it's up to every one of us to live our lives to the best that we can, and to understand the world and its paradigms and philosophies. I think, because I don't think there's any reason to live our lives in a sort of just an an empiricism, in the sense of, well, you know life is cheap, labor is cheap, screw deep thinking, the world's gonna blow up anyway, sun's just gonna engulf everything. Well, I don't know. If you think that, I don't know why you're here. And if you think that, I think that you might be kind of depressed, because, it's not like those are things I haven't thought myself. But, I think we have to do better. I think we have to do better, or we don't stand to have much of an experience. And by doing better, we have a better experience. And if there's any purpose for life, it is for experience to take place. So, thanks for enjoying this experience with me. Don't want to go too long. Have a good evening. Enjoy the paradigm. Like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. What do you think life's about? What's the most important thing?